19th, 2019. We're going to begin and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm told we do have an amendment to the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not having had this on the agenda last week. It just got overlooked by me, but I would like, under new business, to have a brief update on the Devon's Jurisdiction Framework Committee, which meeting I attended last week.
Okay, excellent. And I am going to ask also in addition to that to move the approval of the meeting minutes to the next meeting. I did not have time to review them. So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. They are approved. A few announcements this evening. The Ayer Police Department has begun its annual holiday drive and is accepting donations until December 6th of new, unopened, and unwrapped toys. Collection boxes are out in the Town Hall, Library, Main Street Bank, IC Federal Credit Union, Carlin's, and the Police Department. The winter parking ban is in effect through April 15th. This annual parking ban prohibits parking any motor vehicle on any street or sidewalk in the town of Ayer between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. The winter parking ban also prohibits parking any motor vehicle on any street or sidewalk in the town of Ayer during a snowstorm. There will be a special election to fill the current vacancy on the Board of Selectmen. The election will be held Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. The election will be held at the Ayer Town Hall. The 4th annual Downtown Ayer Candlelight Stroll and Tree Lighting will take place on Saturday, December 7th, 2019 at 5 p.m. Strollers should meet in Depot Square at 4:45 p.m. This year will feature Victorian carolers and an ice sculpture. Santa and Mrs. Claus will be available for pictures in the BOS meeting room after the tree is lit. That's all we have for announcements. I will open up to public input if anyone is here for public input this evening. Excellent. All right, first item we have on the agenda is application for common victualers license for Global Montello at 2620 Harvard Road.
Are you here from Global?
I'm here from Global.
Would you like to please come forward?
What?
Thank you.
Sorry. I just really had to be present, so I don't have anything prepared.
Oh, no, they didn't tell you that we were going to put you in the hot seat?
Yeah, I mean,
Have a seat.
worse things.
Welcome. Can you just state your name, please?
Stephanie McGregor.
All right, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're looking for a common victualer's license for 2620 Harvard Road. That's going to be the new gas station that's opening up?
Yes.
Correct?
So, and Mr. Chair, they had just submitted their application. It's going to be called All Town Fresh Air. I checked this out with Bridget. They have all the proper licenses, and their tax collector signed off on it. So, just standard if you're going to have food served, and then a place for the people to sit to eat the food, which they will have at the Air location.
Okay.
When do they hope to open up?
The estimated open date is December 18th.
I don't have any other questions.
I have no question.
Okay.
That was my only question. I drop by it every day.
Yeah, I got off easy this time.
It's kind of long.
Yeah,
though.
it's looking nice, I must say, it's looking nice. And
We
nice
appreciate it.
landscaping and everything like that, so.
We really appreciate it. I was able to I'm the general manager, so I was actually able to poke my head in for the first time the other day. And it's coming along beautiful inside. I think you guys will all be very pleased to come in and, kind of see what we got going on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Make a motion to approve the common victualer's license for Global Montello Group Corporation doing business as All Town Fresh Air.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair says aye. Approved. The board, correct?
Yep.
Excellent. Up next, we have Chief Murray of the Police Department. Chief.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us tonight.
Our pleasure.
This is Officer David Lansing, if you didn't know.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I wanted to come before you folks this evening because we're making a change, or considering making a change to police uniform appearance, or the police uniform. And I feel like it's a significant change and significant enough that I would want to have at least you know about it. We'll do some public outreach to our Facebook page and all of that afterwards as well. But I wanted to let you in on it first. So that's why we're here tonight. We do have a short video, PowerPoint presentation. But first, what I'd like to do is have David stand up and model. Isn't he handsome?
I told you it's a fashion show.
Isn't he a handsome dude?
Wow. It's the
Are you gonna
beers.
do the walk on the runway? What are you gonna do?
I don't know if I can strap a pose or do any, bummer.
So what David is wearing, this year's fashion, is a standard, what we call a duty belt. This has become the sort of the traditional duty belt of police officers everywhere. This is a tradition that started back in the 1800s, 1850 to be exact, with Sam Brown. If you really want to know history, he lost his arm in a battle. He was a commander in the Punjab cavalry. They used swords back then. His left arm got lopped off by a sword at a battle, and he needed to create a device or belt that could hold a sword that he could draw with just one arm. So he created what was called the Sam Brown belt, had a suicide strap on it, and I won't go into why we call it that anymore. You'll see the state police in our parade uniforms still have that strap. But this is what the belt is after. Firearms and all this other equipment started afterwards. If you look at the back of the belt, well, you can see all the stuff that's on the front of the belt. You also have the stuff that's on the back, keepers, the handcuff case. Sometimes the portable gets back there. Sometimes guys have to put a flashlight back there because they can't fit it in the front. If you can imagine our SRO, very small person, she can't wear all this stuff on her belt. She has to put things on her thighs in order to be able to carry this stuff. In addition, what we've gone to is what we call an external vest carrier. We've done this for a number of years now, where this holds the ballistic vest that the officers wear. It's a lot cooler and easier to get it on and off. What we're proposing to go to is something called a load-bearing vest. And this is what they look like. And I know you've seen them. And they might be akin or related to tactical units, SWAT units, but they're highly functional, very comfortable, and they're made for a reason. And that's why we want you folks to look at this stuff. So if we get just short, if you just go ahead forward.
Do you want to
sit
do the
down,
video,
Dave.
or do you want to?
Let's just go right through it.
Okay.
So really, the reason why and this was being considered, it was brought forward by Officer Lansing, Officer Davis, who can't be here tonight, he's on a case right now, and Sergeant Pearson, who's our defensive tactics instructor. He's out sick today, so he couldn't be here as well. And the only reason we're considering this change is for health reasons. There is no cost to the town. This would be all officers, it would be an optional carry. They don't have to carry this kind of vest. But the main reason is for health and safety, and we're going to show you that in a second. The biggest problem with these belts, and you're going to hear about it in a short video, is the back issues. Long-term wear on these things has a terrible effect on the back. So much so that it could lead to injury, could lead to long-term illness, long-term health costs for the town, and just unsafe for the officers, unhealthy for the officers.
The video.
Yeah, if we could just see this video. It's very short.
Hi there, my name is Dr. Dean Lassell. I'm a chiropractor in Escondido, California. I've been in practice over 6 years. My specialty is spinal biomechanics. What I want to review with you today is understanding the normal and abnormal curvatures in the spine. You need to understand back to front, our spine should be straight, and from the side, we have three unique curves. A curvature in the neck, the mid-back, and the lower back. Today I want to focus on the curvature in the lower back, the lumbar lordosis, which should be anywhere between 50 and 60 degrees, some sources citing 55 degrees. The purpose of this curvature is to dissipate weight as well as withstand gravity. Now, lights off for me, please. This is an x-ray showing the side view of the lower back. And we notice the curvature in the spine here is 57.5 degrees. We notice the disc spaces between the bones. These are the shock absorbers. This is another side view of the lower back and lumbar spine, this time wearing a load-bearing vest with equipment in. And we can see that the curve increased from 57.5 degrees to 59. So we had a 1.5 degree curving increase in extension, meaning we're going this way, 1.5 degrees with the load-bearing vest. This last x-ray shows us dramatically difference. This is a 72 degree curvature. So we can see even more curvature in the lumbar spine, placing more force and more load on the bottom two discs and vertebra, including the joints and the disc spaces. This x-ray was taken wearing a utility belt. So it's very obvious for me to see that wearing the utility belt, we can see an increase in curvature which places an abnormal load on the spine.
And that's what we carry right now is a utility belt. And if you can imagine trying to sit in a car, our car seats are just like your car seats, the same seat. So you're sitting there with this stuff sticking in your back and you're having to thrust yourself forward. That causes that curvature. As well as when you're standing, these things weigh 20 to 30 pounds a piece, depending on how much equipment you have on them. So that also leads to that unnatural, trying to hold it up type of curvature. So this year there was a study done out of University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire.
It was a couple of years ago, Chief. It was published in Police One last fall, sir.
Last fall, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. Anyway, what they did was they went into a police department and they in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and they asked for volunteers, and they got these guys, some to wear the vest, some not to wear the vest, and to talk about their experiences with this over a 6-month period. What they found was using the load-bearing vest, it's much more comfortable, as you can imagine. All of this stuff comes off the belt except for the taser and the sidearm. Those stay on the belt, but everything else comes up front. So now you're not carrying it all on your hips, you're carrying it up here, which is better for you, the body in particular. You can just breeze through that. It's a lot of gobbledygook.
Yep.
As well, so along with the duty belt itself being too heavy and causing that abnormal curvature, if you can stand up, in order to get to some of this stuff, you got to make some abnormal twisting or and turning of your body. It's a little bit more difficult in this configuration, whereas if you had all this stuff up in front, you have quick access to it, and you can get to your stuff a lot quicker. Let's go. I don't think we need to. Cost breakdown. There is a cost breakdown. There is a cost to this thing. No cost to the town. Officers would do this with their clothing allowance. It would be voluntary. So nobody would be mandated to take this. So there'd be nothing for the town to do. We would have to do some training to get some of that muscle memory away from going to your duty belt and going here instead. And then the rest of that is just a few samples. There is a list of departments that currently in our area allow these vests. There are others in the state that allow them, others through the nation that allow them, and there are some that don't. And then there's a few that, those are just models and that we wanted to throw in there. What I'd like to hand out, this wasn't in the packet and I apologize, is just, this is a style. As you can see, the vests that other towns wear, they sort of look a little tactical. Whereas these, if you notice our uniform, our external carrier now, it almost looks like a uniform shirt. These vests can be made the same way, and this picture depicts that. And this Eau Claire, Wisconsin Police Department, this is what they went to. for all of their officers. So it can look more like a uniform shirt if we want to stay more traditional. But again, that'll be a decision made later on. I just throw that out for you folks. That's really all we have for a presentation. There's not a lot to this. It's just what it is.
When would you anticipate that you begin looking at transitioning?
Almost immediately, we would want to talk with the unions, get a memorandum of understanding together, and town manager and I have already started working on that. We would do this for a year as a trial period to see how it goes. If we were to do this, we would get rid of this external carrier as an option. I don't like to have too many people looking too different all the, and if we have 3 different options, then everybody's looking different. So there'll be 2 options. There'll be what Officer Dr. Barheight's wearing right now, or it'll be the external vest, one or the other.
The supplier's here too, if anyone wants to look at anything.
What is?
For instance, the supplier is here, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Wow.
So just out of curiosity, how many in your division that would think about, is interested in it? I'm just curious.
So we submitted a survey back late winter, early spring, out of all of the membership, between both memberships, all but 3 expressed interest in it. So if you think from patrol staff to sergeants, all encompassing, all but 3 expressed interest in this.
Obviously, Sergeant Pearson's our defensive tactics. He's very well versed in this vest and is very interested in it. 2 of my other sergeants I know wouldn't want it because they're more the traditional sergeant. I'm more the traditional person. I wouldn't want to wear one. But I don't wear that stuff anymore anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me.
Any other questions?
No?
Yeah, I fully support it myself, so wish you the best. And,
Thank you. So just so you know, we will be making Facebook and some public outreach just to let the community know what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and I'd welcome any feedback from anybody.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Very good board, thank you. Harley, thank you.
Dan, Shallow.
Scale quick, sorry.
Sorry. By the time my time as chairman's over, I'll give it.
I'm still working. Sounds better, sounds easier than it was.
Just say Dan.
Yeah, the Dan Van.
Engineer Dan, there you go.
So we have 2 change orders for us this evening, correct?
Yeah, so yep, 2 change orders. The first one is for the Prospect and Oak Street infrastructure project, which was CDBG funded primarily. And that project was, I don't know if you guys have been out there at all in Prospect and Oak Street, but it's come out very nice. It's right behind the courthouse. Yeah, so we've had lots of positive comments from residents. They were very happy the contractor was a good contractor to work with too, and he did a professional job and worked well with the residents there. So we were happy with the outcome there. So we're just kind of wrapping up balancing here at the end of the project, and that's what this change order is for. So it's change order number 2, and the final amount is for actual quantities constructed, some minor additional costs, and some credits, and it amounts to $75,350.22 for signature by the chair. So, do you have any questions? Or?
No questions for me?
So I make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve change order 2 for the Prospect and Oak Street infrastructure project in the amount of $75,350.22.
Who's get them later?
I'll
There's
second.
this other one that's,
Pearson is on.
this one too.
We sign afterwards.
Yeah, this one has 6 copies for the board.
Yeah, we'll do those after.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I don't, sorry.
No, that's all right. So the second change order is change order 4 for Waterline Industries. This is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade phase 1. I think in my memo I wrote change order 2, but it's really change order 4. So this is for some work that was included in the scope for the contractor, and then when we got to dealing with National Grid, we discovered it's actually going to be National Grid's scope, so it's a credit to the project of $26,261.92. So removing that from the contractor's scope is what this change order is for that project, so, for signature by the board. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 4 for Waterline Industries in the amount of a credit of $26,261.92 for signature by the board. All those in favor? Chair says aye.
Just so you can have a chance.
I know.
Okay, I'll have them sign them and I'll come in your mailbox for
Yeah.
tomorrow.
All right, perfect.
All
right.
Save money.
That's it for tonight.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, good to see you. Thanks.
Good night.
You too.
Up next, we're up to our town manager's report. I know.
Good evening, members of the board. You have in your packet all of the town warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on November the 5th. And I just have a few items for this evening just to update the board on since the board last met on November 5th. The first item has to do with the town hall. As the board is aware, on the evening of November 11th, on the 3rd floor storage closet. In that storage closet, the temperature reached 160 degrees due to a malfunction, and it activated the sprinkler in the 3rd floor storage closet, and about 500 gallons of water was released. Came down to the storage closet, down to the 2nd floor, down to the 1st floor. It did impact the planning office on the 3rd floor, the parks office a little bit. The economic development office is on the 2nd floor and conservation on the 1st floor. The good news is there was minimal damage. It didn't damage any of the computers or the office equipment, which was good. There were some documents that have been impacted from the 3rd floor storage closet, which departments have been working through. Some of it did act like a sponge. I do appreciate all of the work of the facilities director, Mr. Chuck Schultz and Mr. Paul Carpenter, for their rapid response in dealing with this. We had to temporarily relocate individuals onto the stage of the Great Hall with makeshift stations, and I also appreciate the departments that were impacted, their cooperation during this last week. Immediate remediation efforts have been taken by the very appropriate service personnel. You can still hear, we believe this is the last day of the dehumidification to get all the moisture out. The town will be filing an insurance claim. That's why we have insurance. The insurance adjuster has been out. We also will be meeting with BCM Controls that design the thermostat controls to see what caused that malfunction. But in the end, the town has always responded, and I also appreciate the fire department's response. Once we have the final insurance information, of course, I will convey that back to the board at a future meeting. So that was on November 11th. I do want to report, the board is aware that the West Main Street, Devon's, our Mask Works grant that was worked on between the town of Ayer and Devon's for West Main Street. Unfortunately, we did not receive the grant for this round. However, as I said from the outset, Mask Works grants, it's almost becoming part of the process. It's the second bite of the apple. As the board will remember, the Groton sewer extension was a second time. The parking facility back in 2011 was a second time. So, though disappointed, we're not discouraged because we believe our biggest challenge is there's a housing category component to the MassWorks application. We're addressing that internally. I think we have to do some more work there. We'll be meeting with Devon's internally. We will be setting up a site tour and meeting with the MassWorks program folks. They like to come out, they'll do a tour. They give a lot of input on strengthening the application, and we will prepare to reapply in the spring of 2020. And I appreciate Alan's efforts on the town of Ayer side, Devon's side, and though we're disappointed, we know we will be successful in the spring, so there is a plan moving forward for that. I also wanted to, just for the purposes of tonight, as both of you have communicated to me individually, and we're aware that there have been a recent series of new accidents at the intersection of Groton, Harvard, and Central Ave. And as the board is aware, that's our most difficult intersection. And as the board had asked some time ago for resolution to that, we had a meeting on Monday, we being the two chiefs, DPW and myself, and I appreciate Superintendent Wetzel outlining in this memo two things: what we have done to date and what we're proposing to do moving forward. And Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, what we would like to do is come back to the December 4th meeting, obviously with this item appropriately on the agenda, because we just met on Monday with a formal request, which is outlined in the memo. From the meeting, what we would like to do, the LED stop sign similar to the one on Central Ave, that Selectman Livingston brought up some time ago, over here, we believe would help this situation.
So it become a four-way stop?
It would have those flashing.
But would it be a four-way stop?
It won't be a four-way stop. And we'll explain more why on the 4th, because I asked that same question. And the chief and the DPW director can explain that better. So we have a proposal. Obviously, it just came finalized on Monday. It includes that type of signage as well as some other signage. And after talking with DPW at length, and you'll see some of the things they have done, the intersection can be reconfigured. That's the easy part. Here's not the hard part, but it's a two-phase process. The DPW superintendent estimates, and this is a solid estimate, that the design and engineering would be $25,000. Based on that, the actual construction of the reconfiguration of it would be somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. We're not there. We have to do the design and engineering first. And so what we'll be proposing on the 4th is a recommendation to get immediate, the signage and so forth, and they'll do the presentation. We're looking for your consideration, obviously not tonight, to potentially use some of the UDAG funding in the amount of $35,000, $10,000 for all of the signage, $25,000 for the engineering and the design. The actual construction would go into the capital planning budget at this point as a placeholder. We have to do these first steps first, but based on the board's concerns, and I know that the board has been concerned about this intersection for some time. We've had 4 accidents in the last month. We feel that on December 4th, there's an immediate plan to do some of these signages, and I'll let the experts speak to that on the 4th. And let's move forward with the designing and the engineering. And to your point, Selectman Livingston, I'd like them to explain why we can't do a 4-way stops, but why we can do a reconfiguration. That's a lot of information for tonight. My takeaway for tonight is I wanted the board to know that we also take this serious and that we're accelerating the plan, and we'll come back on the 4th. You have, this memo, and we'll have a formal presentation.
Well, I for one am glad that we're finally going to do something, because as he's pointed out, this has been discussed ad nauseum over the years. So I'm glad to hear that we're going to finally do something, and I will say that whatever is decided to be done, I hope it's done really fast.
So if we approve the UDAC funds, at least the flashing signs, which even though there's a flashing light above the intersection, might actually catch people's attention, that should be a fairly quick turnaround on those items.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Hence, and I understand, I share the philosophy on the UDAC. With board approval, we will be in a position to immediately do all of the signage improvements, as well as it would be with, to proceed with the engineering design, so then we can be in a position to discuss the project itself relatively quickly. If we don't,
We can't use free cash?
we can't without town meeting
Okay.
approval. So, if we don't, and I've asked the superintendent to look, unfortunately, the funding in the existing DPW budget, there is not funding to do the signage, or we would have tried to have done that. That would be the quickest way to do the immediate improvements. If not, we would then, as you know, the design money would go through the capital process, and the signage would have to go through the budget process for the spring. So for tonight, the takeaway is, I wanted the board to have the memo. I also wanted the public to know, because I know you have been contacted, we've been contacted, I know there's a lot of concerns about the intersection, that this is a priority. I also want to just add, I know Selectman Livingston, you had brought up also to me recently about over where the Woodlawn Cemetery is, about a crosswalk, or the cemeteries on both sides. That's going to be tricky too, but at this meeting, I've asked the DPW superintendent and the police chief to look at what options do we have there, where you have the cemetery on both sides of a major road, now going to have the gas station. What about, how do we accomplish some type of crossing there? As the board discussed previous meeting, as we talk about the transfer station and moving forward, it was discussed at a BOS meeting about having a site tour or a site meeting at the transfer station with the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health, and the Recycling Committee. And I know that some things got delayed, and now we're in the greatest part of the year where it gets dark at 4:20 in the afternoon. And so I did take sort of an attempt in looking at the calendar. Saturday, December 7th, I know, Mr. Chair, you and I had discussed this too, granted at 9 in the morning. Members of the Recycling Committee are available, the superintendent is available. I have not received any confirmation yet from the Board of Health, but I'm sure that there'll be representation there.
I'll be there.
The question is, and I pose this to the board, what do we want to accomplish at this meeting? So just so we can manage some expectations and we can prepare.
My goal is to kind of review the transfer station and the way that it's just set up and laid out, not only from, I guess, the administration, but also as a customer. And kind of get people together just to share ideas of how things might be able to work a little bit better. Also maybe share some frustrations that we've had that might be impacting people's willingness to continue using the transfer station instead of going to curbside pickup. That's really the bulk of it, because over the last few years, the amount that's been coming out of the omnibus budget to supplement the costs has been increasing. So if we can come together and come up with some ideas to try and either improve the revenue or drive down the cost, try and get that under control.
First, unfortunately, after it was mentioned in October, a rumor has been started that the Board of Selectmen want to close the transfer station. So if I could just take a moment to rest assured, the Board of Selectmen are not considering closing the transfer station, and I also would like to remind everybody what the motion was on August 26th, 2014, which also I hope will alleviate your worries. On August 26th, 2014, right upstairs here in the town hall, I made the following motion. Based on 2 public input meetings, 603 signatures on a petition received by the Board of Selectmen, and the recommendation of the Curbside Study Working Group that the subject of a town-wide curbside be tabled until such time as significant changes in all requirements dictate otherwise. All requirements also include massive changes in state law. There have not been any type of those things. We are not at that point in a couple of years, as it was stated even back then. Maybe we will have to have another conversation, and again, it would be exactly the way it was done before, working groups. We are not closing the transfer station. But I am concerned about this large amount of people arriving at the transfer station on a Saturday because you know that this rumor's not going to get corrected. Okay? And people are going to see this massive amount of people all of a sudden showing up, Board of Health, Board of Selectmen, the Recycling Committee, who has also asked for 2 other members to be there, one being Irene Congdon, who was present on August 26, 2014, and it is going to cause chaos. And I am very, very concerned about that. I'm very, very concerned about the fact that right now it just feels like we're more concentrated on the transfer station instead of other things that I feel that should be concentrated on. We're finally going to get some type of change to the intersection. We're going to discuss, what are we going to do about a crosswalk? We've still got the lighting problem over here with the brand new crosswalk on Depot Square, which are more critical, and there are people more concerned that we're talking about the transfer station to increase membership, which we, over the years, as the Board of Selectmen, maybe even the Board of Health has mentioned over the years, the DPW and everything, there have been, I believe Alan did a tour of the transfer station one time. I seem to think he did, maybe not.
Put it on your list.
Put it on your list, okay? People know that it's subsidized under the general fund, and even the people that have used curbside, they even said they didn't care because once, twice a year they use it. And we all have something that's being paid that we don't agree with. But I am very concerned about the optics, and I'm very concerned that this conversation is going to rear its ugly head and we will be trying to rein it in. Now, the idea of, trying to get some type of feedback as to can we improve the process up there, I have no problem with that, but I am very, very concerned about all of us showing up and scaring the crap out of town. I lived through it years ago, and it was awful.
I appreciate you bringing it up. We had talked about, we were trying to do it before it started getting dark so early, and unfortunately with the earlier sunsets, it kind of pushed us to having to look at a weekend to go. I understand your concerns about that amount of people, because Saturday morning is very busy. I would like to at least I'd still like to move forward with the walkthrough personally. And I'm not looking to close the transfer station. I'm a customer of the transfer station. Actually, I'm a big fan of the transfer station.
I'm a fan of the transfer station.
And my concern is that as a big fan of the transfer station, with the trend that we're seeing with the costs, is at some point, which came up in the meeting a few weeks or like a month ago, was that at some point we do kind of hit that tipping point, which then we need to revisit the whole piece of the transfer station versus curbside pickup.
Well, I mean, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but part of the problem is that, and I've watched this on social media, and I've even talked to people who, some will say, well, the permit, the regular permit is $95. Well, that averages to $7 a month. And somebody would say, well, I'm paying $35 a month for curbside, it costs me less, and I don't understand the math. And then there's the pay as you throw bags, which unfortunately the price of the bags is kind of out of our control. But as I even mentioned last year, when we were talking about the transfer station rates and everything, is why is there seem to be a discrepancy between what we charge for bags as to another town who is using the same bags. And to be honest with you, I still haven't gotten, I believe, a satisfying answer to that. Is it because we're the town of Ayer? Are we taxed different? What's going on here? And I do think that needs to be fleshed out. And of course, people complain about the price of the bags, and they want the town to pay for the bags, which that'll raise the taxes. So I think people need to understand when you ask for something like that, that would raise the taxes. But I mean, you know, just with transfer station, in my opinion, as a transfer station user, I am being able to control those costs. I can keep them down. Part of the problem is, you know, everyone loves the composting, but the grant and the contractor that's working that grant isn't necessarily picking it up on time in a manner that needs to be picked up, so it sits there. So they either need to pick it up a little bit more, or at least give us a couple more cans. You know, so I think that, and I believe that that was being talked to at one point. I think that Mark was going to ask about that. And I do think that that could alleviate some situations. I'm very hesitant about the optics. And I would also like, rather than us, you know, scheduling it for December 7th, I would also like to wait until after the election for the new select person to be a part of the conversation, because for all we know, the new select person's December 7th would not work. And then perhaps have this conversation again.
Yeah, I'm open to delaying if that's what we want to do.
I definitely
Fine,
think we
I'm fine
should
with that.
wait, because I don't want,
Okay.
you know, the election's on the 3rd, and they, you know, then they're gonna come in on the 4th, and then we'll be like, hey, what are you doing on the 7th? And plus it's the holiday season, so I think we're putting too much on the table. But I also want to make it very clear to the public, we are not closing the transfer station. We would like to improve the transfer station.
So when we approved the last rates for the transfer station, and again on social media, there was a lot of blowback about certain things, one of which was also the hours, et cetera. You know, so there's a lot of things, and I was looking at this tour, or I'm looking at this tour as kind of a catalyst to just kind of look at the overall operations up there and how we can better serve the customer base.
And one of the things that we had talked about is, you know, having, you know, like maybe Wednesday being into the evenings. So
Right.
I will say again what I've said before, Town Hall is open on Tuesdays for 12 hours. I see absolutely no issues with having the transfer station open on a Wednesday for that many hours, and they can take those hours from a Monday, a Tuesday, a Thursday, or a Friday. Do not dare touch Saturday and Sunday. And I think that I know personally, if Wednesday night was open, it would help me personally. And I'm sure that there are others. Now, at the time that it was first said, we were told, well, the lighting's bad, but the lighting was fine at 6 a.m. Granted, the sun was going to eventually rise. Then the lighting should be fine then too, and putting up another light is pretty simple. So again, I agree with you on that.
So Robert, you've talked with Mark about the tour and everything. And so do you have any concerns about still like a group of people showing up on a Saturday?
No, I think that we can do a tour. I think that Selectman Livingston just made some points that were not thought of, at least on our end. So, I mean, we can delay it, just so the board knows. I mean, his vision for this, when we do it, would be to start at the entrance and sort of tour all of, you know, the functions. I mean, unfortunately, it's not as exciting as Disney World, but
Well, it depends on your perspective.
but these are some
Do
of
we
the.
need to stop in the shed while we're there?
You get a gift. I think delaying it, I don't think is fatal. You know, especially with the new select, you know, we can reschedule that. I think some of this feedback, this ongoing feedback dialogue is helpful to some of these things we can begin to move towards. And let me just offer a couple things since we're on this topic that we are actively doing. One is, as the board knows, the issue of the hours is a contractual thing. For the purposes of tonight, I do want to meet with the board to discuss that, and we are doing some work on that, but it's an executive session issue, so I think we need to meet on that. We'll be ready to. Secondly, I have asked the DPW superintendent to look into the issue of illumination. You know what I'm saying? That when we, whatever that is, and that is underway. Thirdly, per both of you and per the board, the tax collector's office effective because December 3rd. So obviously, the main place to get the stickers has been at the DPW. The tax collector's office has offered on Tuesdays, because we are open later, to sell those stickers on Tuesday. So for folks who can't make it down to the DPW, this is a resource. We're going to track that for 2 months as well. There's going to be some PR on that. So we're sort of phasing in these different things. The board, I know, has mentioned about also selling bags and so forth. That's on the forefront at other locations besides the ones we have. I have asked IT. We don't want to get into a cash situation at the transfer station. That's to protect everybody. But IT, we've been looking into some options that we could do some things up there, you know, point of sale, things that don't involve any cash. So I do, obviously, I take the direction from the Board of Selectmen, and I appreciate, because there are those rumors out there. It needs to be made very clear exactly that there is no plan to close the transfer station. Our goal right now per this board is to do two things. Continue to manage and reduce that subsidy when and where we can. And the board knows we have two huge challenges there, the recycling and the hauling rates, which are, in all transfer stations, our hands are somewhat tied. But to manage that subsidy as best as we can and improve the customer service experience, as well as, you know, the enforcement and so forth. So if we were to delay it, that's not an issue. I think the points that have been made are good.
You prefer to delay?
I think we should discuss, we can discuss it again on December 4th.
All right, I'm
Because-
fine. Why don't we delay it then?
Okay.
Because I believe,
Let the new members settle in.
yeah, and because I believe that even if, you know, we decided on December 4th that we wanted to do on December 7th, I still think there'd be plenty of time to post the open meeting. You know, or we could
Yeah.
do it, you know, like the fall or something, so.
Okay.
Excellent.
I just have two more quick things before the action items, and I'll be quick. Selectman Livingston mentioned a key point that I want the board to be aware about, because this has come up a lot. With the completion of the parking project, the crosswalk on, many people have brought up, and you just did again, about illuminating that crosswalk. At the meeting we had regarding this intersection, that was discussed, and Superintendent Wetzel is looking for, he believes there is an option, there is an ideal option to illuminate that crosswalk. And then potentially from that, let's start there may be some other opportunities per the board, other crosswalks where that would be applicable. So I am glad that you mentioned that, because the intent is, it is very dark, and that's come up quite a bit, and it is a safety issue.
I find it to be one of the darkest crosswalks.
Yes. It's a tough one.
Yeah, and you know, we have the police that'll position their car and everything, but even with that,
Right.
it's not enough.
Yeah.
So
The whole lighting downtown is very off. Just doesn't really illuminate very well.
You know, I find that especially if it's rained, because of the, you know, the
Yeah.
glare. You know, because last night when I was coming home, I came home late and everything, and I'm like, God, I never realized how dark this street was, and it was because of that glare from the water and everything. Oh, one more thing, if I may.
Please.
There's no parking in front of the post office. It's painted no parking in
Yes.
front of the post office. Could we enforce the no parking in front of the post office?
Chief always leaves too soon. Yes, we will. Yes. Okay. Yeah, there is no parking there.
They
Yeah.
put cones, flashing lights, no parking.
Okay. I will mention that to Chief Murray. Yep. Two final things. The FY21 budget update, which is actually one of my action items, so we'll deal with it now. So just so the board is aware, we're in full swing on the FY21 budget. All of the capital requests are in. I will be sending those capital requests this week to the Capital Planning Committee, to the Finance Committee, and to the Board of Selectmen. So you'll get the requests that have come in. The first meeting of the Capital Planning Committee is Wednesday, December 4th at 4 p.m. Generally, what we do at that first meeting, and the board and FinCom will get this as well, one is we have a status report on any outstanding projects, so you'll have that information. Two, we sort of just have a general discussion of the initial requests. And three, we sort of schedule, though they meet weekly, we sort of decide which departments we want to meet with. I know I have said this before, but it really is, as you'll see this year, it actually appears to be a lighter year than we have had, I will argue, in the last 6 cycles, especially in DPW. So that's positive. So with the capital process will be underway. The FY21 budget directive went out. It is in the board's packet. I did send it to you previously as well. All of the initial budgets are due by noon on Friday, December 13th. In the budget directive, we've asked everybody to prepare level funded budgets based on last year's levels. No new personnel. Any new need, regardless, or any increase, regardless of increase, unlike in previous years where we put an amount, we want to see everything identified. I did stress in the memo, we had a department head meeting last week where we went over the memo in detail. I have stressed to all departments that they need to demonstrate efficiencies and spending savings where possible in the budget. I've also asked them all to individually prepare sort of a 5-year look back on some of their efficiencies as well as grants and so forth, but that I've made it clear that the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, myself as the head of the administrative end, we want to see budgetary efficiencies on that. One of the new things, which it ties into the budget calendar, we did have a by-board meeting, and I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you'll maybe give a brief report on that. If not, I'm not trying to steal all of your thunder, but there was one thing that the by-board has recommended, which is in the budget calendar, and I want to note. And this also comes from the Finance Committee, too, when I met with them. In the past, so it's a little different this year, in the past, the budget came in on, say, December 13th. Lisa got it together, minus a blizzard or something else. It went to the BOS and the FinCom on January 5th. And FinCom did its thing, BOS did. What we're going to do this year is on Monday, January 13th at 6 p.m. Myself and all of the departments will come to a joint meeting of the BOS and the FinCom, and we will present the budget to you and to the public as we know it on January 13th. So everybody in this room knows there are some aspects in the budget so that we're going to have placeholders and so forth. Why are we doing that? I think one, and it's something we've talked about, is let's have, right in the beginning of the process, a public presentation of the budget, and it'll be very structured. We're not looking to keep here forever. Have all the departments here, get everybody on the same page, and let's look at the budget as it's been submitted. Then from there, the FinCom will do its due diligence, its prerogative to review. Board of Selectmen, and we have all the other processes on the calendar. Then we'll come back on March 9th, Monday, March 9th at 6 p.m. And it won't be quite the same presentation because we're not going to just repeat everything we did, but we will have the budget presentation more in almost in its final form. And on the 9th, then in this joint meeting, BOS and FinCom, may have issues or questions or adjustments, and also through the Board of Selectmen, open it up to the maybe public input. By doing that on March 9th, that will allow us some time then to process the public input and the joint input on the budget. Because what's happened, and I said it last year, has been a frustrating point of mine, that part of the process has either been rushed or compressed, and it's nobody's intention and so forth, but you just run out of time. So the buy board, when we met, not stealing your thunder, but it's part of the schedule, said, let's have these bookends. So, and also for the public, so we're going to tell me there've been 2 public, presentations on it. So that came from the buy board. That's the main change on the schedule, which I'll get to in a second. Lastly, from the buy board, just an update. Also, in trying to consolidate things, the budget book was very successful, and we were required by state law to do an annual town report. It was discussed at the buy board for this upcoming year, just as they do in other towns. Let's combine the 2. And what I'm getting at is take the elements that were legally required for the annual town report and what we want to do with the budget book, and let's make 1 document instead of 2 documents. So the next meeting of the buy board, myself and Carly are going to have an update on that, which will update to the full board as to what that's going to look like. So I want to make it very clear, there's going to be an annual report, because by state law, if there isn't, the selectmen get fined $50. It's in the statute. There will be an annual...
50?
Yeah. There will be an annual report. Yeah, with the budget piece. So I just, nothing to be alarmed about, but we're just trying to consolidate and be efficient. So we'll have a presentation on that. Promise. Lastly, I'd like to end on a positive note, which is a true testament to the efforts of this board, the FinCom, all the boards, committees, and commissions. As the boards where we did get our certified free cash as of July 1st, 2019. And the general fund free cash is 1.7 million. The enterprise fund for water is 2.7 million. Enterprise fund for sewer, 2 million. Solid waste, 81,000. And an ambulance, 84,000. And I think that's a very positive testament to the whole town as a town effort. And we all know our sister towns and so forth that are struggling, and we don't take this lightly, meaning that let's start paving things in gold and so forth. But this is part of the barometer to the success and fiscal stability of the town. So I just wanted to report that out. At the Capital Planning Committee, we always provide the free cash. I have asked the town accountant to prepare, it wasn't ready for tonight because a lot of our comp towns haven't been certified yet, but to put together a 1-pager to show where we compare. So we will have some decisions to make in the year ahead, important decisions on free cash. So I just want to end on a positive note. Finally, next week is Thanksgiving. I want to wish you both a happy Thanksgiving, and the public as well, and the town hall is closed next Thursday and Friday. So that's my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert, and happy Thanksgiving to you. On the free cash, this has been just a sustained effort by everyone involved over probably 6-7 years.
It's pretty much the average, about 1.7 that we had certified, so that's great.
And I think it comes from the cohesiveness that we have across the boards and the committees and the departments. And the departments play such a huge part in that. I think that does get lost. So thank you to everyone involved in that.
And thank you to the Board of Selectmen for your leadership and support. So under my action items, I actually have covered a couple of them, so I appreciate the time. I did give you the FY21 budget update, which was number 3. Number 2, the FY21 budget calendar. I am respectfully asking the board to approve it. We have been following, everything is on track. One caveat, and it's nobody's fault, just in full disclosure, we have one collective bargaining group, the Town Hall Clerical Unions, and we had negotiations scheduled to commence in October. The town is prepared to meet. AFSCME 93 has had all this turnover. The union has had their internal meeting. I am still confident we'll be done and in a position within the budget, but there's just been some things beyond our control on that. Other than that, everything is on schedule. Ms. Antonovs did put those two dates I mentioned, the January 13th and the March 9th, were the additions to the calendar. Finally, why I'm asking the board to approve it, it helps me because I've told all departments that all of these deadlines are the deadlines, and any deviation from it has to be approved from the Board of Selectmen. And I don't anticipate that.
Just a small update to the January 2020 calendar is January 22nd is the rate review committee meeting.
That's right, that I think has been made since.
Okay.
Yeah, we went ahead and scheduled one for January because we felt that the February ones were just too crammed. And we wanted to see if we could just get slightly ahead so that when we meet on February, we're in more of a roll.
All right, excellent.
I can add that in, no problem.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget calendar as amended by Selectman Livingston.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
And I did the budget update. So the last action item in your packet is amendment number 5 to the agreement between the Town of Ayer and Mass Development for Veteran Services. As the board is aware, for several years now, the Town of Ayer provides all of the veteran services for any veterans that are living on Devons within the Ayer footprint. Mike Detillion has done an excellent job. The agreement has been a sufficient agreement. Amendment number 5, like its previous amendments, is just to continue it for a year. We always review the contract with Mike. There's no substantive changes needed, and financially, and Lisa looking at, there's no need to change it. So we're looking for your approval of Amendment 5 that would extend the agreement for 1 year.
I'll make a motion to approve Amendment 5 for services between the Town of Ayer and Mass Development Finance Agency for Veteran Services.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. No, sorry, quick question. So Mike is doing, he's 2 to 3 days in Ayer and then 1 day in Devon?
Yeah, so Mike does 2 days here, which is Thursday mornings
Yeah.
and Tuesday nights. Then he's the veterans agent in Harvard, and he's the veterans agent in Shirley. So he is a,
And he does an
He does a
excellent
phenomenal job.
He does an
Yeah,
excellent
he's
job as
amazing.
veterans.
yeah,
Excellent.
does a great job. Yeah. And that concludes my report. Thank you both for the time and for the dialogue.
Thank you. Up next is our amendment, which was Selectman Livingston with an update from the DJMC.
So last Wednesday, December 13th, Robert and I were at the Devon's Jurisdiction Framework Committee, or the DJFC. I can tell you, I'm really not sure we accomplished much. I can tell you 2006 is still a problem. And I did tell them that they need to get over it. Okay. And in fact, one of the co-chairs asked me as we were leaving, after we had adjourned, he said that he thought that, I was kind of quiet, and I said there was a fight going on. There was just the tension in the room, fight going on, and I said, they all need to solve this problem. And it all dates back to 2006, which I got a little more info as to what happened in 2006. If I heard correctly, in 2006, Devon's residents were asked to be included with the J-Boss. And evidently, it just turned the J-Boss upside down, and they were never able to get on track. Now, I went to a meeting, I believe, with Gary in 2013 and maybe 14 and maybe 15, and that is sad that all those years later, they never got back on track. So, I don't think we accomplished anything. We did agree to add Devon's residents, to include businesses in Devon's, as the 6th stakeholder. Okay, and it was pretty much a majority who agreed to it. Now so there's Ayer, Shirley, Harvard, Mass Development, the DEC, and now the Devon's residents and businesses. There actually was a Devon's resident there who attends the Harvard meetings. They're part of their little resident meeting about Devon's, and she's kind of scolded us because well, not us,
No,
but
right.
the others at the table kept referring to Devon's residents and businesses as them. And it didn't go over well. So, you know, the bottom line is that 2032 or 33, the state will make a decision based on the recommendation of all these stakeholders as to what to do with the property. Now, I know a lot of people say that we should have taken it back then. Well, we really didn't have much of a say. And not only that, had we received the property back then, it would have bankrupted at least one town. I'm not sure exactly which town, but I can tell you that if it didn't bankrupt Ayer, we would have been in real financial straits. Because if we were to even, as Robert pointed out, if we were to get back the land tomorrow, as is, we have property on the historical Ayer line that are 21E issues. And then we would be having to spend money. So there would be that problem. Also, and we all discussed at the table, was that there is no 100% guarantee in 12, 13 years from now that it will end up reverting back. It all depends on what is found when we do these recommendations and what the state feels, okay? But the Devon's residents would have a say. Now, just to kind of walk you through a little bit as to some of the things that have to be considered going forward if we were to bring back the land is the residents, how they pay taxes now on mass development compared to how they would end up doing it here in Ayer. Now, they have a split tax rate there in Devon's, right? So us having the split tax rate would be an easy transition for them. Wouldn't be an easy transition for Harvard, because Harvard doesn't have a split tax rate, okay? But the other problem is that what type of an impact would that be on the Devon's people coming to Ayer as far as with our tax rate? So one of the things that would possibly have to be considered is tips.
Right.
Right? So there's a lot of things, and then you look at like even how the roads are right now. If we were to inherit back, what type of road work would we have to do now to fix it to suit more of Ayer? I mean, Harvard would even have to do that as far as the Ayer post. Right. Yeah. So these are all things that need to be considered. And so Harvard had come up with a request for qualifications, and they gave us their draft. And it is, and I had mentioned this before last year when it first came up and everything, but to kind of see it again in black and white, I also want the public to understand all the things that go into it. What type of services would we be having to offer? Is the DPW that's on Devon's, what property line is it on? If it was on the Ayer line, score, right? If it's not, we got to tie in. So there's all sorts of nuts and bolts that have to go on, and that is the purpose of this committee that ever can get past 2006 to going forward. So that's I think that's about where we left off. I think the only thing we really accomplished was agreeing to allow the sixth stakeholder. I did also ask the Devon's resident that if, and I will make a plea to any Devon's resident, if anybody here in Ayer knows someone who's living on Devon's, who's either a registered voter here in Ayer or lives on the historical property line, and if they were to register to vote, they would be voting in Ayer, who would like to be a part of the resident committee that we're trying to form, because we need some Devon's residents. So she said she thought she might know a couple people, so we're hoping that we'll finally be able to get that portion started.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask if we could kind of agenda that for the 4th, put something together just so we can kind of put the call out to more people.
Right.
I know when the Trinity proposal was put forth for Vicksburg Square, at the time the Finance Committee we started looking at peeling back the layers, if you will. What is the impact? And you, to your point, you start getting into, there's an economic impact, there's a social impact, that does include residents of our town, currently on Devon's. There is the historical lines, the way that they run. Robert and I were talking about this a few weeks ago. Like, one of the things personally I would be open to is either moving the property line or the historical line so that they kind of make more sense.
Well, exactly, like you mentioned Vicksburg Square. So Harvard has a little piece of that.
25%.
Right, so it's like, that kind of almost like
doesn't make
ridiculous.
sense,
So would Harvard be willing to give us that 25% in, receipt of 25% of a different section? I absolutely agree, because even looking at the map, which I wish they'd give us one with a little clearer, trying to figure out what button I was on and trying to find the front gate was a little hard, but I found it. But it was it's really kind of eye-opening, is, so like the old Willard Field, where, I don't even want to say it, the old Willard Field that's right by the front gate is on the Ayer side, and the Devon's Conference Center is in the Harvard.
Right.
And so, but that, right now, the way it's set up, that 10 years from now, depending on how everything looks, has the potential of some type of joint agreement for the towns to have celebrations. So there's a lot of positives, but there's a lot of work that I don't think that everyone realizes until you get down to the nitty gritty as to everything that needs to be done. And if, for example, if we were to offer tips, our businesses are going to be upset. So now we've got to sit down and explain to them, so there's a lot of nuts and bolts that go into this. And if we ever get past 2006, I'm very positive we can get something done.
Well, if we ever get people for the citizen group, I'd be happy to start looking into that. I think this is something, and it's been on my radar since the Trinity proposal, this is something that will impact our community, our area for generations to come. So we have to make sure that we do the proper analysis, do a thorough analysis, and make the right decisions.
Right. So that's my update. We meet again
December
the second Wednesday of December. I could just look at my calendar. Here, let me do it the easy way. December 11th.
December 11th.
Wednesday, December 11th.
And just to add to Selectman Livingston's report that pretty much hit all the points, we have also volunteered, the town of Ayer has volunteered to host a website for this effort. It would be driven by the committee, but having a central repository for all of the documents, minutes, and so forth. We take our small victories. The second thing, which there's still retooling, and Selectman Livingston is correct, we asked for a very clear, basic map with the boundaries. Because one of the points is we've always looked at this and talked about it. The traditional boundaries are not convenient, as you know, and maybe we need to begin to think outside the box, as you just mentioned, about shifting those. But we've asked for a very clear map. There's still work on it, wasn't quite. But a clear map also for the public, because I think when we talk about this, I find that people can be more visual, like, right, just, so when you, like, what is the exact Ayer piece and so forth. So, Janice is absolutely correct. I think hopefully we've moved past 2006, so excellent report, so we'll keep it going.
Thank you, Janice. As Robert said, there was a byboard, but I apologize. I've been working way too much lately. So sometimes to give an update, but pretty much what he said.
Just pretty much one day after another. So, okay.
All right, thank you. So we're going to do the meeting minutes at the next meeting. If there's nothing else.
I make a motion to adjourn the Board of Selectmen meeting at 7:16 p.m.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. We're adjourned. Thank you for your time tonight.
Well, happy Thanksgiving!